All right. Welcome back, guys, to the Raised Hunting Podcast. I'm joined today by Warren and Easton, who collectively, between the three of us, are having one rough turkey season. We'll get more to that here.
We'll
get
correction.
Oh, no.
I'm pointing to my right and my left.
It doesn't help when you've only gone one day.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm smart enough to not screw it up.
No, you've just been contemplating what you're scared to do. And now you've confirmed that you're still scared to do it, and you're going to go with it. So anyways, go on with your introduction.
It's called knowing when to walk away from the blackjack table.
You don't know. You picked your bow up today.
Whatever. Should be an interesting topic today. But before we get to the topic, Warren's got some shout-outs, and then Easton's going to read from one of our who's our lucky.
We'll get there.
Okay. Take off, Warren.
Apple people, you guys have been stepping it up, and we appreciate it. Now, let me do some shout-outs here. Bowhunter 101715. Best in the biz. Keep it 100% real. Love everything you guys stand for, the faith, family, the love of bow hunting. I have been following you guys since y'all first started. Can't get enough. Y'all keep up the awesome work. I hope to one day be able to meet y'all. I'm going to guess that you're from the South.
Why?
Because he said y'all 8 times, and Warren doesn't know how to comprehend
y'all
that.
several times. Shut up, bro. You can't even read. That's why we had to go back to me doing this.
I read the stories every week.
Jake Dudley. You the man, Bowhunter 101715. We appreciate you, and I'm sure we will get the opportunity, hopefully, to meet you here in the future. Dad's got a CDL now, so maybe he'll go take us on tour.
I'll be driving through your town.
HTFD32. Amazing. These guys are amazing, and I have learned a lot. Man, people are giving us way too much
I wonder if
credit.
he's a fire department.
I would say so.
He's only 2 numbers off of your number.
What? I didn't hear what
32.
Oh.
AAROM 56. This is probably Aaron Rodgers. Great
Let's hope
podcast
not.
and a lot of great advice. Keep up the good work and God bless. You the man, AAROM. We appreciate you. P. Butler, Minnesota. Shout out here from northern Minnesota. Getting ready for turkey with my bow. I like all your content on turkey and deer hunting. Learning a lot. Thanks. You the man. We appreciate you. Now we better get our YouTube people because they yell at us sometimes if we don't.
Hey, they've been kind of slacking lately, too. It's only been our main dudes. We haven't had many new people. And I know there's other people listening on there because we don't have 100 and some comments on there. So,
true.
Somebody needs to step it up.
The Masonry Kid. Great video. Had Tom jump a 6-foot creek first day of youth season. He went right up to the Tom, beat the hell out of it, jumped on top of the decoy, and my brother shot it and unfortunately missed, but it was a great experience. I'm going to be after this weekend to hopefully get one myself. Awesome.
Oh, yeah.
God's General 924. Jeremy Rupsick's brother.
Oh, he got his boy involved. All right.
We're expanding within family.
Yeah, we'll take it.
I didn't realize this was Alabama.
Genealogy.
Hey, guys, I'm Jeremy Rupsick's brother. Great podcast, great info. 2 thumbs up. Sent you the email asking about hung up birds from an incident I had this year. I live in South Carolina, and my season starts in March. I worked 2 toms that were hotter than a concrete slab in direct sunlight on the equator.
Oh, my gosh. That is a great simile.
They would come in and hang up at 75 yards, cutting off every call I threw at them. They would leave, and I would call them right back. That happened 3 times. Finally, after the 3rd time of leaving, I got up and moved the spot. They kept hanging up just to find out there was what we call a hog fence. It's basically chicken wire with 6 by 6 holes. 6 inch by 6 inch holes. That makes way more sense. So nothing they can cross through. And the animal would have to jump over it. I knew right away it just wasn't going to happen since it was another property on the other side of the fence. I was going to just leave, but then they hammered off coming back on their own. So I sat down and called to them. They came running back in, and I sat there for an hour watching them strut up and down the fence, gobbling their heads off the entire time. They just wouldn't cross it for anything. The crazy part about it is the fence was literally only 2.5 feet tall. It absolutely blew my mind that they could be so hot but wouldn't cross a 30-inch high fence that they themselves were a little bit taller than. Yep, been there. David Harrison
that crap.
says it's the best part of his week. We appreciate you, brother. The Masonry Kid, raised right. Jeremy Rupsick is on here. Bam Bam 2533. Thank you, guys. No Jake DeLee this week. What the heck? We must need to.
He's on vacation. Just give him a chill.
I'm a bit hurt.
Break. Okay, so now that we've done, we just pretty much read a whole nother story, so appreciate that. But we're going to do another story for anybody that doesn't know what it is. We had all these folks send us their photos and success photos, and I practice my reading skills on here with you guys and read their stories every week. And we have a bonus part at the end of this that if you listen to last week, you'll know what I'm talking about. So without further ado, see the buck that is in the truck bed on the top left?
Yes.
Yes,
Go to
right
the
there.
one just to the right. That one. Yep.
It's a big buck.
Right
Yep.
there is our boy. His name is Jim Bello. And I'm about to read a novel. So
You
hang
find
in
it,
there
Nick?
because I'm a bad reader.
Can
So
you need me to read it for you?
no.
Sure.
But he did send us very detailed ones. So this is actually like, you guys could probably learn some stuff from this one as well. Without further ado, Jim Bello. Whoa! My table is, well, she's good now.
Get on with it.
I hunt. Why do you do this? Why do you rush me?
I'm excited to hear the story.
I hunt in southern Illinois, southeast side, on some friends' land, and extremely fortunate they allow me to hunt with them. I was still working at the time, retired at the end of last year, and wasn't able to get out bow hunting until the early part of November. I had been seeing your ads for Scrape Junkie. I would imagine he's thinking Scrape King or Buck Junkie, but hey, put them together, they work great.
I like that idea, actually.
And decided to order some before I was able to get away. The morning of this particular hunt, November 11th, it's a good day, I planned to hunt a large oak flat atop a ridge of white oaks sprinkled with a few red oaks and hickory trees. This is the highest part of the property. There is also a couple-acre food plot, not more than 300 yards away on the flat as well. This area receives a lot of travel, as well as grazing on the acorns as the deer move from area to area. There's a thick creek bottom behind the stand down the ridge about 100 yards, so the deer move from one area to another, or follow the creek bottom around the base of the ridge. And the activity usually is from 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. and again mid-morning. Afternoons are usually quieter as the deer are moving out to the ag fields in a different direction, and after about 4 p.m. you likely won't see much activity. So it's great. It's a great morning spot. So now you should have a freaking picture and a half. He actually described that very well. I feel like I'm in his place. Anyway, not being able to get away until the rut was on, I chose this spot as at the very least I'd see deer moving on this cold, frosty morning. And there are 3 spots where there are traditionally scrapes getting into the stand on the main route in, and 1 scrape that is below and behind the stand that are annual scrapes. They've been in these locations every fall for as long as I've been able to access this spot. Not having a chance to use a Scrape Junkie before season or prior to my getting down south, I stopped at each scrape on the way in and applied some of the product to some of the overhanging limbs and a bit in the scrape at each location, and got into my stand about 40 minutes before daylight. Early man. About 6:45, as it was light enough to see pretty well, I scanned all the directions around the stand and reconfirmed ranges I had in my mind from hunting this spot a lot. I could clearly see the scrape below and behind me off the trail 40 yards, and the 2 in front of me about 40 yards and 50 yards, and settled back in with the crossbow in my lap. About 7:20, I heard a shuffling noise behind me and slowly turned to see what was going on. The squirrels had been going bonkers that morning, and I was certain it was them chasing each other around. But when I turned, I saw a deer standing off the trail and tearing up a tree next to the big scrape that was on the trail. He was obstructed by the tree he was working on, so I couldn't tell how big the buck was or how good the buck was. Finally, he stepped on the trail and started working on the scrape. He was tearing the heck out of it and rubbing his antlers in the limbs, and I'd rubbed in the limbs that I had rubbed the Scrape Junkie in. Shooter was my first thought when I saw him. When I tried to swivel around to see if I could get a shot, he heard something and looked right in my direction. So now it's a cat and mouse game where he couldn't pinpoint what the noise was or exactly where it was coming from. But he knew as the big deer do. Something wasn't quite right. I'm about 25 feet above him in elevation and about 20 feet in a 20-foot ladder stand, so he's well below me, but downwind as well. The trail was on, what the heck? I should retype some of these so I can read them better. The trail he was on leads right up to the past stand, or right past the stand, as I was in a split off to either to go past the stand parallel or Y off and head to the food plot. He decided to take the parallel trail and would go past the stand for a bit and walked up until he was level with me, and he was very alert. He started to veer off towards the food plot on a deer trail, and I thought, well, that's it. He's gone. But I grabbed my grunt, doe, fawn, bleat call as a last resort and gave him a few grunts and doe bleats. He stopped and looked back at me, still uncertain of what was up, but this time the sun, which was just rising above the tree level, was directly in his face, so I think he had a hard time pinpointing what was going on, or at least he couldn't see me skylined. He paused for a few seconds, still alert and nervous. Next, he did something I would not have expected. From where he was standing, there was another scrape in front of me, and at an angle to him about 50 yards away, and he walked over to it. Where he stopped then was now 51 yards away in front of me, and a few small trees between us and mostly open woods ahead. He walked to the edge of the trail where the scrape was and worked over the tree. I'd put the scrape junkie on and licked it and rubbed his antlers in it and worked the scrape for a few minutes. When he stopped, now he was directly upwind, so I know that he can't smell me there. He raised his head and snorted again. I could tell from his body language he was nervous and about ready to hightail it out of the area. I had a window to shoot through, so I knew it was now or never. I ranged him at 53 yards. I had a good rest in the ladder stand. He was quartering away fairly well. I held right behind the ribs and took a breath and squeezed. At the shot, he turned to go directly away. I heard the bolt connect with something solid on the deer, saw him turn back towards the trail. Then he walked to the center of the trail, stood there for a second, and crossed the trail into the brush on the other side about 20 yards and stood there. I wondered if I'd missed and struck the small tree beside him. The crack of the bolt could have been that. Then he just disappeared, like he just dropped. I replayed the whole sequence of events in my mind, from the time I saw him to the time he walked up and gave me a shot. Then he walked away, and poof, he was gone. Did he just drop in the tracks in front of me, or was he 75 yards in front of me and I just couldn't see him? The adrenaline, the shot, the crack, then poof. Did this just happen? I sat in the tree for 10 minutes running it all back and forth. I think I saw him drop, didn't I? I got my gear together, put the calls and rangefinder in my pack, lowered the crossbow and gear carefully down the ladder, picked up my gear, reloaded the crossbow, and slowly hiked up the hill on the flat, walked to the trail from the stand where I thought I had shot him. I got to the scrape spot and looked around, and I could see a lot of disturbed leaves and where he'd freshened up the scrape, but he wasn't standing directly in that scrape when I had shot him. I remembered, so I scanned ahead a bit and saw the first sign I'd hit him. There was a white hair atop the brown leaves a few yards away. I thought, oh no. I gut shot him and my heart sank. I moved up a few yards and there was no blood, only a bit more hair, but it was white and brown hair. And this time a few drops of blood. Another few steps to the edge of the trail and into the woods, and there was a bit more blood. Bright red, not a lot. I took a few more steps and there was a good deal of blood. A few more steps and I stepped on my tracks. I saw antlers in the grass, shrubs on the ground. His body was enormous. I had never shot a deer this big-bodied, not even close. I had no idea how big the rack was. I hadn't picked him up out of the grass or on the ground. I tied a ribbon on the tree to find him easily and walked back to the truck for reinforcements, as I knew I wasn't going to be able to move him. Long story short, when my buddy arrived with the UTV and his wife pulled him out of the grass, my buddy said, You're getting that one mounted, aren't you? I said, I don't know. He didn't look that big to me rack-wise, but he was so big-bodied it took me, both of us and my wife, to barely get him off the ground and into the UTV. There was a lot of grunting and cursing. Once I followed them back to the farm and hung him up on a A-frame, and he darn near had his head on the ground. His rack still didn't look huge to me because his body was so big and the neck was giant. We took some quick measurements, and I suddenly realized that this was a giant deer, for me anyway. For sure my largest to date, but it hadn't sunk in yet. Until we took off the head and cape, my friend isn't a great picture taker, so the pics I had from the field don't do him justice. Then I realized, holy cow, he's big. Anyways, that's the story of my best deer to date. The funny thing is, the next morning I had another opportunity at almost the same size buck on the opposite side of the oak flat in the bottom. Another story, but I let him walk, and I don't regret it at all. Thanks for Scrape Junkie. I don't know if it worked to either bring him to the first spot I saw him or kept him around long enough to get a shot, but I'll definitely be using it again in the scrapes we hunt over. Have a good turkey season and be safe. Thanks for the great TV show and podcast. I love them both and appreciate the insights, banter, family, and ribbing. It's how I was raised too.
It was well
Jim
written.
Bello. Yeah,
Yeah.
he should be a freaking author, like writing the story.
Nice work, Jim.
Is he a 10?
I can't tell on that picture.
I can't. I
There's
can't
at
tell if
least
that
a G.
He's
G4
in the-
is.
There's G3s and 4s, yeah.
On the right too, though? Or
Yeah,
I guess
both
on his
sides. I
left.
can see it.
I'll bet that deer's in the
We'll put
mid
that up
60s.
there for you guys so you guys can see
That's
it.
a freaking big deer.
That's a
It
really
is a
big
very
deer.
large deer. He's got a lot of mass, too. You can see his neck. It looks freaking massive,
Yeah, he has
too.
no neck. He's just like a linebacker.
Okay, so like I had told you guys last week, evidently we just have to give them a little reward or something. Tell them to do something and whatever. Because when I did that one, you guys started sending pictures left and right. It was great. Stories and everything. I told everybody last week, if you send us pictures of a successful turkey hunt from this year and the story behind it, or if you'd want to send the story behind it, I will put you in for a drawing. So we had quite a few people actually send us. I only did a week, so this is last week's podcast. So if you're listening to it now, you're behind, and I'm sorry. But I picked 3 lucky winners that I'm going to send you guys this pretty puppy. And this is one of our new things that we've come out with. It's actually not our full line that we don't have it all yet, but this is the start. So, turkey plaque. You can put your stuff in there, put your fan in there, and it's got the Raised Hunting logo on it or the Raised Podcast logo on it. And I'm sending these puppies out to you guys. So, Joseph Clark, you are a winner. Travis King, you are a winner. And our boy, Jim Holloway, you are a winner. And you can't give me crap or think that it's rigged either because I actually put it in a computer thingy where it did random stuff. So, you 3, if you heard your name, send me another email at contact@raisedhunting.com, and I just need your name and your address. And I will get you your gift on the way as soon as I get your email. So thank you guys. And thank you for the pictures. I'll actually put these have Nick put these pictures up here too for you guys.
That
Very cool.
reminds me that I remember I was wondering if Jeremy had trail camera pictures of his deer.
Yeah.
He did not.
So you didn't know
So
it?
that was no, he didn't know that deer. However, he kind of did because his buddy, they have a rule that you can't shoot a buck until you shoot out a doe. And so his buddy, that deer came by his buddy, and so he had to film him because he hadn't shot a doe yet.
That's
so,
tough.
yeah, he said he had video he could send to you.
All right. I'm
So.
in on that.
That's tough.
Uh-huh.
All right, so we want to get started here.
Yeah.
What are we talking about?
Well, we're talking about what we've already talked about, but in a different way.
I think people say keeping it real, that we try to keep it real. Well, we're
Okay.
about to keep it really, really real.
Okay,
So I'll go ahead and do this one.
You go ahead.
I'll bring it in here. Okay.
keep it real.
Okay. So I think the context of our previous conversation on the same topic is hunting turkeys with a bow ethical?
Okay.
And we had mixed reviews on it, and our shot placement on them, which we have preached for a long time, shoot them right in the shiny spot. And so now we've had a rough season.
For sure.
And are we reconsidering any of our shot placement or any of our prior opinions on bow hunting turkeys? So I think that's kind of just the conversation is just what we've had go on this year.
Would you like me to answer first?
It don't matter. Go for it.
My big thing is self-awareness. Like that's Todd with Eastman's was asking us, he asked the same question, do you agree with bow hunting? And my biggest or best answer I can put is I think it comes down to your capabilities, and you have to be very honest with yourself. And what I mean by that is if you are going bow hunting and you're wounding turkeys left and right, or you're hitting them and you're not finding them, okay, that's probably something that you need to address. If you're one of those guys that's not having an issue with it, then maybe it's not a big deal. Now, where I would have a different opinion on it now, going off of what I had happen the other day, is my big issue. Do you want us to tell the stories and how they worked?
Sure, I think we need to just be honest with people.
So mine comes down to the margin of error that is not there. And what I mean by that is me and Dad went the other day, and we were reaping. So for anybody that doesn't know what reaping is, it's just basically crawling behind your decoy. We've talked about it in some of the other podcasts. Disclaimer, don't do it anywhere where there's other hunters because you might get shot. But we were on Dad's place, and we got into five or
three toms and
three
some
toms
jakes.
and jakes, yep. And it didn't take anything. I mean, that was the shortest crawl I've ever had when I'm reaping, and I feel like I've always had to reap or like crawl long ways. And these birds showed up. We knew where they're at. They showed up in the field. I simply moved around a little hill to get them to where I could shoot and where Dad was saying I needed to be because I couldn't see the birds. Long story short, these birds commit, and I don't know that they commit because I can only see through certain parts of the
Tail
the
feathers.
decoy unless I'm going to freaking like pop my head out, which is a no-no. So I can see a couple back there about 100 yards away. And next thing I know, I hear Nick and Dad behind me say, "Are you on them?" And me knowing cameras, and we've always filmed, I know that when somebody's asking if you're on it, there's something here.
They're in
And
shooting
most of the
range.
time, you know they're there. And so I hear that behind me. I'm like, what is going on? Because I don't know. I don't see any birds, right? I'm still looking at them standing out there in the field. Well, right about that time, I'm sitting there like, where are they talking about? Are you on him? And just to my right, a head pops up right there. And now I'm like, oh, frick, because the way they were coming in was going to come to my right. They couldn't come to my left, really. So I knew that if they're coming in at me, I could get to full draw behind the decoy, and as they want to come around out my right, thunk them, you know. Well, I didn't get to time it at all because all of a sudden they're right here to the right already because I couldn't see them. And so I went to get to full draw, somehow got to full draw. The one for sure could see me. The strutter didn't seem to really care. Dad calls at him. He's like 15, 16 yards, and they all gobble. And he's standing there, and he's strutting around everything. And I go to settle my pin. Now I'm using a back tension, which has been working great, but this could be an argument for back tensions in hunting. But I am in an awkward position, so I don't have my hand set exactly how I normally do. Well, I settle my pin, I go to rotate through, and I got that sucker like dialed. You can attest to that.
Yeah,
like
you've
I've been shooting
it really
very,
well.
very well with it. And so I go to pull, and I'm pulling, and it's not right. But when I go to release, like really, like just let it all go, like just relax, that allows me to release my bow, especially in a situation where I need to pinpoint it, you know? Well, when I went to do that, nothing went off. And it was because of my hand was so cranked in a different way because I was sitting down, all angled, everything. Needless to say, it goes off about a second after, or like a half second after I am settled. I know my pin is not settled on him right when I shot. Can I
pause for 1 second?
Yeah.
For anybody that doesn't know what a back tension is, it is a release that has no trigger. You cannot force it to go off. You have to either rotate it through or pull through in order to get it to go off, which the reason Easton's been shooting is because he has a terrible, terrible problem of smacking the trigger, and that's really helped him overcome that.
I've been shooting way better, and I already shot one bird with it, no issue. But that was in a different situation. Anyways, I knew right when it went off that my pin had moved. And when I hit him, the bird is like pretty much facing straight away. He was angled a little bit towards me, and I put it just back on his, like basically aimed at the left side of his right drumstick so that I would go through the center of his body, all of his vitals and everything. I hit like 4 or 5 inches left. When I hit 4 or 5 inches left, I kid you not, and this is screwed up. I've looked and I've been looking. The freaking, I don't know how, it cut his wing off. And I'm not saying like it cut a feather off. Like we should have taken a picture of it is what we should have done.
Yep.
Because it's gone, by the way. I didn't know if you knew that or not.
I thought you brought it in here.
I tried to this morning. I looked around for 15 or 20 minutes. I have no idea where it is.
Well, some
you
got
put
it
it?
last night because it was
It's
laying
under
there
my
yesterday.
blind and everything, which has my real wings that go on my decoy right there with it, and
in your truck or in his shop or what?
at Dad's house
outside
in the
no,
yard.
out in the yard.
And then the wing from him is
Yeah.
under all of this.
Okay.
And so somehow something got under there and didn't care for the other fresh wings, but grabbed that one. Anyways, it cuts the entire wing off, like as clean a cut as you can think of. And I'm like, what? I've never heard of that happening. I guess the way I look at it, we went and looked for him. I was trying to get another arrow in him, but I didn't have the chance to. We put Dan on it to try to track him because there was blood, and it was real bright colored blood. And knowing what I know now, that was just from – it was just so easy. I think it was just such a vascular area that he's just pumping his blood. I mean, it's not like his lungs
There
are
wasn't
nothing.
much blood, though.
No,
I mean,
I'm saying the
compared to-
color of it.
Yeah, but I mean, it was like maybe 15, 20 drops total.
Yeah, I mean, but where they were, you could see them pretty easily. They popped, and I mean,
Yeah, on the
but
green
it
grass
was
and
not.
the brown leaves.
I mean, I was hoping, grasping at the fact that maybe he left with the other group, and he's not screwed up enough that maybe he'll leave them. I think he is screwed up enough to leave them, but I'm hoping to find at least the group, and then maybe he'll find him too. Well, we did that. I went back and looked again that night. I tried to wait to see if I could roost them, just to see if I could see birds and trees, or there's going to be one that's on the ground is the point, because he can't fly. Didn't work. I mean, I didn't get to do it because I couldn't find him. So that to me was, you guys, we've all been talking about it. I've been thinking about it too. Is it right to do it? Now, I haven't had issues with turkeys like a lot of people have, or you've had and stuff. Like, if I hit them where I'm aiming, knock on wood, I had not had issues. This one I did not hit where I was aiming, so that's part of it. But number two was, I do not like the fact that I was off, in all reality, probably 4 to 5 inches is what I was off. Just about any other animal, I could be 4 to 5 inches to the left, or depending on the situation, but on a deer or an elk, and I'm still good.
Either
Like,
way.
Yeah, and I'm still going to hit some vitals. That's what hit me, that I was like, man, it's not a matter of hitting them in the right spot or doing this right. You have to be perfect. Like, you have to hit the exact spot that you need, and there is no room for error. Like, an inch or two could totally screw you out of that bird, or screw the bird up. And so that's where I've come to, I'm weighing it pretty hard, that I don't know if I will pick my bow up anymore, just because with a shotgun, I can guarantee a shot, or I can guarantee it's going to die right there, or I'm missing completely. And I am also doing exactly what I'd be doing with my bow anyways. It's just a matter of, it's going to put them out quicker. And so that one to me that's the first one I've had in a really, 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 really long time that I did not recover, or recover quickly, properly. And the margin of error is just not there at all. So I'm in the gray area still on it. Personally, I think I'm leaning towards just picking the shotgun up, because like him, he's got to die. Like, whether, I don't think he'll die from the wing,
No.
but like we've all talked about, I think something
Something
going
will
to get him. Yeah.
because he won't be able to get in a tree.
So,
All right.
but Dad's got it even worse. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
Dad's in a worse spot
I'm
even than I am.
gonna pick up the vital thing here in just a second so that I can describe, and then people that can see it. So mine was before Easton's. So the first morning you guys heard us talk about 2 toms came in, 3 toms, 4 toms came in first morning, and I shot low and back on one, which did not, I didn't even.
You missed it.
I missed
You
it.
didn't,
Just took feathers off of it.
Yes.
I missed that turkey. We
There
didn't
was
wound him.
nothing on the body. That
Right.
was
He
hit
went out and
whatsoever.
strutted and everything. But anyhow, that in itself is not normal for me when it comes to turkey hunting. I think the best that I can remember, the last time that I lost a turkey, last time I think I've lost anything was bushy beard.
Yeah, I was just going to preface this because it's going to sound like, with what we're about to talk about, it's going to sound like we shouldn't even be hunting in the first
Right.
place, which is a valid assessment with how everything's going right now. But just for reference here, we're obviously being pretty transparent with our misses and stuff. So like Dad's last miss on a turkey that I can think of would have had to been bushy beard, where you hit him
And I still think we found him, but
Yeah.
the dog found him first.
and that was what,
The neighbor's dog. That was
14 or 15 or
probably 8. I'm thinking it was 8 or 9 years ago.
okay, so that means that he has
including
had
misses?
Huh?
No misses either?
I haven't missed.
He's had one other issue.
shit.
It was the opening day this year, and then
Yeah.
the other one was the
Well,
bird you shot and knocked his beak off
Oh yeah.
because he was
no,
fine.
it wasn't his beak. It was the
Goozle.
Goozle.
Yeah.
Goozle. Yep.
Yeah.
which that's
So that my point is that we're not sitting here like, oh, this happens every year. And my last one was 2016, so that's
Well, I
mean,
think the reason we're doing this is because we just put out my Colorado mule deer the other day, where I hit a deer and did not find it, which there was a ton of people commenting, and they're saying, thank you guys for not bullshitting us. So the reason that we're doing this is because I know if anybody else knows of any other podcast where they're talking about animals they've wounded, please send it to me, because this is where our problem is, that we have such a huge issue with these guys that are shooting long distance. Because we could sit here and tell you about the 3 turkeys that we've killed, no problem. But we're not doing that. We're telling you the freaking truth. And they're telling you about the ones they've hit, not the 15 that they
wounded
or the ones they found. The 15 they wounded or missed. And so we're having this conversation because we feel as though that it is important to get this information out there and make sure that people are thinking of these things, and especially if they're because if we're experiencing it, so are other people probably, that they at least have something they can compare to, and they have something they can go off of, which I think, that's the whole reason last year that I went full whopper chopper, because for me, I needed to reinstill confidence, and that was a way that I knew that I could, this year, the reason I didn't go whopper choppers is was I was pretty confident. I had a little bit of my mojo back. But like yours, I do remember now the Goozle thing. We had a discussion because I said, Dad, I probably said David. I said, what the hell are you doing?
Shooting him in the head?
Yes. And you were like, what do you mean? I said, why are you shooting him in the head? And you're like, well, I just, I was like.
He was standing still.
I was like, bro, you're 40 for 40. Why would you do that? That would be like Steph Curry shooting 40 for 40 from the 3-point line and then saying, I'm going to try the free throw.
No,
where he's 50%. Why would you do that?
I don't know why.
I know. That's why I had that conversation with you at that time. So you're of everybody here, my ratio is by far the worst. Now on big game, I'm even or right there with you guys. Turkeys, I've absolutely had issues, which was funny on your text the other day. I don't know what to do. I'm like, we do not need to have a competition on this.
Let me finish. Let me get back to what we were talking about. So opening day, I miss a turkey, but then another one comes in, and Easton had his bow, so he's trying to get it to full draw. It's too far the only one that can shoot it is me, and I knock another arrow, and I get another shot. And this one was like 21, 22 yards, something like that, and I hit this one. I didn't hit him perfect though, even for myself on that one, but I caught his one leg and into his body. And so we recovered that turkey.
Which that one didn't come in.
Right, he didn't come into the decoy.
He came to 15 and then skirted.
But he was also the way that it sounds as though you're saying is that he came in a minute or two later. This one was at the same time, so it was a rushed situation.
Everything's going on in seconds.
Yes. So you just shot at the one, and then you're knocking another arrow.
And the other one is currently strutting out in the field.
Yeah, he went back out and started strutting, and this one's going out to him.
Well, even if you killed him, you had 2 tags, so it's not like it was.
Yeah.
But anyhow, so I got a shot at that one, and I did. In my opinion, I still didn't make the perfect shot, which ticks me off at myself. Okay, but it was enough to kill the bird. I mean, enough to stop him, and then we shot him again a few minutes later. So anyhow, long story short, we kill that turkey, but I'm not happy with myself because typically if I shoot them in the shiny spot, they go down right there, and either they're dead right there or I go out and I wring their neck, and I'm done. And so anyhow, I didn't shoot either one of them in the shiny spot. The first one, that's what I was aiming at. The second one was he was facing straight away, so I couldn't. And I've taken that shot multiple times as well. Last year was one, and I center punched him right through the back, and he didn't go 10 yards. So anyhow, I'm comfortable with where I'm supposed to be shooting turkeys typically. So fast forward. So anyhow, that was the first day. So even though we've recovered a bird, I still had some lingering doubt that was bothering me because I didn't make 2 perfect shots. And so anyhow, we get 2 tags. I've filled 1 tag. I found some other birds 2 days later. Eli and I go set up on them. Birds do exactly what they're supposed to do. 2 toms come out of the timber. They see our setup. They're going to work their way over. I'm like, this is golden opportunity right here. I mean, they're coming in, not running, going crazy or whatever. The one runs up. When he gets close, he runs up a little bit. He's just envisioned that he's perfectly strutting straight at me. And he's got his tail cocked to the side, which tells me he's getting ready to jump on the decoy. And typically what ends up happening when they jump on the decoys, sometimes they stay, sometimes they knock it over, and then
what the heck?
and it becomes mass chaos trying to get a shot. So I'm like, just shoot him straight on, put it right between his beard and that's why I wanted to grab this board here, put it between his beard and his wattles, and you should be perfect. Well, that's what I did. So anyhow, he's straight at me. The crease, which for those of you that are watching the podcast, we can
just put the clip in here.
Yeah, but I'm going to hit the crease of his breast, so I know I dead centered him, and I was maybe an inch above his beard, and thought, I mean, I watched my arrow go right in. Our knock went off. It was blue, lit up, goes through him. They run over to the timber, and we figured he's not going very far. But I'm watching, and he doesn't go down, which I can only see about 150 yards. A few minutes later, we figured, okay, we probably only saw him for 10 seconds after I shot, so there's a good chance he went another 30, 40 yards, and he's laying inside the timber. But when they don't go down in sight, and I know that I don't have his legs knocked out of him, I'm reluctant to go look for him. So I tell Eli, we're going to go back.
You want to back out and wait.
That's what we did.
So we just leave it.
Yeah, so we backed out for an hour and came home, watched the footage, put it on the computer.
Back out on them very long, though.
Mm-mm.
It seems like coyotes and stuff.
Everything gets after him and stuff like that. So, but anyhow, so we come back, we play the footage to make sure that what we thought we saw is what happened, and the arrow's right where I would have aimed it. Right where I was aiming. I can't say that I missed. It was 8 yards, 9 yards. And so anyhow, we're like, okay, that turkey should be dead because that should have gone right through his body.
It looks perfect.
It looks absolutely perfect. So we come back.
Did you find the arrow?
Yeah. It was stuck in the ground.
Covered in blood,
Had blood on like two fletchings,
you can't really go off of that much.
But it went through
feathers.
It went through feathers, and it goes into the grass. The grass was, a foot tall by now.
Yeah, I'm just trying to give people
paint a picture. Yeah, so there's blood. But to answer your question though, before we left, we did not go out there. I didn't even go look for anything. Didn't do anything because I'm thinking what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring Dan, and I'm going to put Dan on a lead. And I'm going to walk Dan down there, and he's going to find this turkey because I'm confident that my dog can track anything that is leaking blood. And so anyhow, that's what we decided. We go back to the house. We look at the footage, the same footage that you guys will see, and arrow went right where we thought. So that's our plan. We go back. We take the dog, keep the dog on lead, carry my bow with me in case but I'm expecting to walk up on he's going to walk us to a dead turkey. So we come back an hour later. Put Dan on it. What we didn't know at the time was 10 yards past my arrow is good blood. Like visually, like tracking a deer, kind of like you can see this. And Eli's behind me. He's like, oh, I got blood. I'm like, yeah, I can even see it. And Dan is like, no issue. He's just motoring right along, goes right in where they went in, goes down the hill a little bit. Now we've gone the 130, 40 yards that we could see. And now we go about another 100 yards. We're in the timber, and we're going down a hill, just like a slow, gradual, not a big, steep hill. You can look down there. And about that time, I stopped Dan because I see a turkey take off. And I saw a beard on it, but it was running to my right. And so I tell Eli, and he's like, yeah, I saw it. And I'm like, I don't know if that's him or if that's one of the other, because the total amount of turkeys that came in was the 2 toms, and then there was 4 or 5 jakes that came to our right. So I'm like, I don't know. I like the fact that there's only one bird ran off. Maybe that means mine's laying right there. Right about as we're having that conversation, we see another one take off, and I can't see a beard on it, but it looks like a big, big bird. It goes just out of sight, and we hear wings flapping, and I'm like, it just pitched. So the turkey just flew. You got to be kidding me. And so Dan's still on a lead. We're standing maybe 100 yards from where we think it got up. So we walk down the hill. I said, well, if he's pitched, Dan won't be able to follow where he flew, So anyhow, so we go down the hill hoping that what we're going to do is walk up on mine. That what we saw maybe was another one of the jakes, or that mine is still laying right there, and that's why those turkeys were there. They may have been beaten up on him. We get down there and we don't find anything. But Dan is like freaking out, like pulling really, really hard. And so he's sniffing all around the creek. And so there's enough area to look at, a probably 50, 60-yard circle. And so I'm like, we need to look in here good, because Dan acts like the bird is still laying here. And so we start to make a loop. Well, at this point, Dan is not following blood. And so I don't want him to get confused that I'm asking him to look for something. So I take him off of his lead. And when I take him off of his lead, he circles around the creek, and no, there's no turkey. And I'm like, we can see in here that I don't understand what's going on. Let's go back over where we saw the two birds run off from and see what we find. About the time that I get right there, I see a puddle of blood. And then I see another puddle of blood. Well, Dan beat me to it. He's already found those two puddles of blood, and he's in front of me about 30 or 40 yards. And now his nose is down, and he takes off down the creek bottom. And there's a big sheer cliff, kind of probably 20 yards tall, right in front of there. Dan goes over into the creek, and I'm trying to call him back so I can put him back on the lead and we can track. He runs into the turkey, gets him out of the. So now I realize what we heard flapping was the bird couldn't make it across the creek. And so he was in the creek, but he's got a dog pushing him now, and Dan's trying to grab him as he comes up out of the creek. He makes it to the top of this sheer cliff, and then pitches. And when he pitches, we watch him fly 75 to 100 yards through the timber.
So the first time that he pitched, how far were you guys from him when he did that?
About 125 yards.
So he just heard you or saw you? Or?
I think he saw us coming down the hill.
Okay.
And that's why he took off running, and I think he tried to pitch and couldn't make it across there.
Okay.
And so if Dan had been, I look back now, if I had still had Dan on the lead, we might have gotten another shot at that turkey in the creek, because he wouldn't have been, my lead is like 10 feet long and 15 feet long, so he can't go very far. So Dan would not have gotten to go over to the turkey, and if he was laying in the bottom, I might have gotten another shot at him. Okay. I don't know that. But anyhow, long story short, we watched the bird pitch and fly. So I get Dan back on his lead, and I said, let's just keep going here right now real quick and see, because there's no way my dog is going to be able to track where he flew. He flew probably 100, maybe 125 yards. Unbelievably, Dan tracks the turkey down through there where he flew. And the reason I know that is I'm finding drops of blood even when the turkey was flying. And so we follow that down there. Then Dan makes a hard right-hand turn and goes back out and up to this CRP. We've now gone about 300 yards from where we found the turkey, not from where I shot. We're probably 400 to 500 yards from where I shot. And we go out, and we now go up into some CRP, and there's a drop of blood. I'm like, Dan is actually following this turkey. Like digging for all he's worth to go after him. We get to that CRP, and that kind of starts another hill. And at that point, I pulled Dan off. I'm like, okay, there's one more patch of timber. That's where I think the turkey's going to be. We don't want to run him. We now have an idea where he should be. So I backed Dan off, and we waited 5 hours. Waited 5 hours, come back, go into that timber. And it's what would you say, 5 acre patch?
Not even,
timber?
Probably 3
or 4 acres of like cedar brush type stuff. And at this point, Dan has no idea where that turkey went. And I think that he pitched off that hill right there. So we contact the neighbor and ask if we can look on his place, because that's the 3 or 4 acre patch of brush. We went through all that, nothing in there. And then when you cross the road and onto the neighbor, it's probably 15 acres, but it's probably quarter mile, half a mile long. So I'm positive we're going to find that turkey down in that brush somewhere. So we go down in there and comb all of that. No turkey. So we end up not finding this turkey. And I believe that turkey is dead. Especially if for those of you that see that arrow where it goes in, I don't think he can survive the day. It went through his entire body, in my opinion. Now, I do think, judging from this, that I'm right underneath his heart and lungs. I should have been higher. Should have been aiming at like closer to his wattles. If this diagram is exactly how he is when I shoot him, I should have been up here, and it's down too low and goes underneath.
His head was further down, though.
That's what I thought.
He was like, where they got their head back here.
Right.
So, even if you went through there, I think you got to think of the lung on a turkey's got to be what, that big?
Yeah, probably 3 inches by 4 or 5 inches, something like that.
So we're saying like roughly.
Yeah, something like the size of one.
I think that might
I
even
think
be
that's
big.
too a little big. That's a little big. Their heart's only like.
Okay, so then from the front, that's probably about to scale.
Maybe.
I don't exactly know how big a turkey lung is, but I can't imagine that it's much more than that. Because if any of you that have ever gutted a turkey, we breast all of ours now. If you ever gutted them, their heart is like that big.
Yeah, I'd say
it's like a little, like
inch and a half, 2 inches by, I don't know.
It's like a walnut on steroids.
Right.
They're not that big. I mean, it's a little bit bigger than a golf ball would be about accurate.
Yeah, they're probably.
So you're trying to hit you don't have to be off very far.
Right.
And you don't even get one lung.
Right.
The other thing that I find that's, okay, anyways, keep going.
Anyhow, so long story short, we did not find that turkey. So I come to that question. One, I have not picked my bow back up. I consider my tag filled because I killed that turkey. That's the way I believe that I killed him. I had an elk like this that we did an episode called Determination where I knew for a fact that elk was not alive. I knew I killed him, but I couldn't find him. It took me 6 days to finally find him. You're not going to find a turkey that doesn't want to be found. They're not 1,100 pounds or 1,000 pounds laying on the ground. So we we went back the next day and looked again, and we've done everything.
I even went back and looked in a third day.
Yeah, when we saw some buzzards and stuff like that, thought maybe he had been holed up underneath something. No turkey. So I'm at that point where it's very hard to take. I mean, it's like, okay, I hit this bird perfect, although I did not hit him perfect of what I preach, and that is take their legs out. If you take their legs out, they cannot get away. I mean, now that comes back to the ethical side. I think recovering that turkey, killing that turkey in a minute or two, if that's what it takes by shooting them again or going out and wringing their neck, is way better than shooting them and not finding them or not knowing at all what happened to them and where they ended up. So is it ethical? I don't know. I mean, before I would have said absolutely it is because I was on such a roll that I had killed so many. But I'm in that gray area myself because I'm kicking myself and saying that maybe I shouldn't be doing this. I've thought about just take the shotgun. It's the same. You're going to let them come in just as close as you normally do, shoot them in the head and be done.
It's not like we have anything against the shotguns either. Like I have a whole turkey shotgun set up that I haven't used. I mean, I've used it some, but
I think for your number, I think that it would be ridiculous for you to say that it's unethical. Because if you take your number and we exclude the snoozle bird, then I know that there was a time, and I want to say it was 47. I know that there was a period there where we had counted, and it was quite a few years ago that you were 47 for 47 on turkeys.
Yeah, well, I know it was the 40s. 100% he's in the 40s.
Well, because I remember it being counted up, and I was like...
We did that at Bushy Beard is when it was. When he had that happen is when we're like, holy cow, how many of you...
So then
you have not had this issue.
The problem is I'm a hunter and I have what?
How long ago was Bushy Beard?
Oh, at least 8 years ago.
8 years ago, and how have you averaged one turkey or two since then?
A year?
Yeah,
5.
5?
I've been killing 2 or 3 in Nebraska and 2 here every year.
Yeah.
Have you been?
I probably average 4.
To Nebraska every year.
Yeah.
He was there for a while.
Okay, so we'll at least go say 4. So 32 was 47, 79, and then we've had 2, Snoozle and
Bushy Beard.
And now this one. So 3.
Okay. So your miss percentage is like 2.1% or something like that.
So I'm 97.5 per effective, roughly. Higher than that even, 97.8. The problem is, guys, is that I don't want to have 0.1% off.
You're about like 96%. So I mean,
That's not acceptable, in my opinion.
Well,
that's
that's
the
a
difference.
stupid comment.
Yeah.
No, it's not.
It is a stupid comment because you can't. Let's take deer. Let's take everything else. 99% of people aren't at 96%.
It's physically impossible to be 100%. It's never going to happen, no matter what weapon.
Just like that's why we all don't bash on people. Now we bash on people that are doing it all the time, which is why we're having this conversation right here. Because turkeys, without a doubt, it happens more than it does, at least for us, on deer or anything else, just because they're.
Oh no! It just from the sheer number of people that we talk to that tell us
it's overwhelming.
Losing turkeys is a higher percentage than any other animal, any other big game animal being hunted in the United States.
Right, but
losing turkeys with a bow.
Losing turkeys with a bow.
If somebody else came up to you and said that they are 96% on deer, and said that they are thinking about not hunting deer with a bow anymore because they're 96%, what would we say to them?
I think you're okay. You're way better than the average guy.
Even if you're not trying to compare yourself to average, you're within 4% of perfection. You can't be perfect. So 96% is a pretty damn good number. Just like I screwed myself this summer when I said I hadn't missed a buck yet, and then I freaking hit one in Colorado. So that's what I get for doing that, the announcer's curse or whatever.
Madden curse.
But for the broad majority, it's way more than that. I know what I'm doing going forward. I'm either going whopper chopper, or the only reason I hate the whopper choppers is because they're just such a pain in the ass to set up. So I'm either going to set up a bow with whopper choppers, just leave it all the time, or I'm just going to find the biggest fixed blade 4-blade that I can find that flies good out to 25, 30 yards, and I am only shooting at their neck.
My point wouldn't be to be perfect. It would be the part that really bothers me is that you shot that bird perfect. I mean, if I put myself in that situation, I've done it. I did it this year. We had pretty much the identical shot. The only difference was mine was a hair angled, so I was lucky enough to hit a leg. That was my first one. And so my issue with it is I don't know what you're supposed to change. That, like, if you can actually do it all correctly, you can do it, everything is right. Your arrow goes in the right spot. Your arrow comes out in the correct spot, so we know that there's a good entrance and exit. That right there is a big thing for me that it's out of my control. So what's right and what's wrong? Because I did everything right, but I still didn't recover it, you know? So that's, I mean, I don't know. It bothers me that, number one, you can have that happen, then I could turn around and I screw up. I make the mistake, a small mistake that is massively costly because there's such small room for error. So I don't know. I think it comes down to weighing whether or not you're, I don't know. I mean, I guess weighing whether or not how much one bird has power over all the others. And what I mean by, like, example, you could go off of 40-some perfect shots. You've all hit them well, and you've had one out of that 40, however many, you hit well, and it didn't die. Is that enough to say, okay, there's an issue here? What is the difference? That's the tough part, I think, because logically you'd say no. It's not a big enough issue to go get rid of it, to stop doing something. Well, 1 in 50 or 1 in 40. But the chances, I don't like that chance because it's out of my control. It's not a thing of just go practice more or go fix it. It's what are you supposed to do?
Yeah, I mean.
So what's our theory on what happened with your, with that bird?
I think it's just a little bit low.
Just a little low?
That went underneath his heart and lungs, went through, everything on his body, and he went somewhere, and I would say within 24 hours he's dead. I would think that less than that, but I've seen birds where other people have shot them and they didn't die right away.
So what do you think killed him then, if you think you're a little low? What did you hit?
I think I went through guts. other parts of his anatomy.
I think he pitched when he pitched. Well, we know he pitched. I think when he pitched, he went a heck of a lot further than what we thought.
Yep.
Because it would have been very ezy for him to just glide.
Just soar. He wouldn't have had to. All he had to do was get in the air there, and he could have glided all the way over to that bean field. And if he made it to that bean field, he needed to get all the way across to get out of that timber. But we don't have permission to go over there with no blood trail. It's not legal to go look.
Well, so all I'm looking at is, let's just say if it was low. So even these blades, if
it just goes in
if
the
it
wrong
went
way,
in like that,
you can miss even when you hit where you're aiming.
yeah, you're still missing, which I don't believe. Maybe somebody on here, I know the Ranch Fairy wants to tell me, but I'm sure somebody can tell me on here. I don't believe that when you hit an animal that the broadhead keeps spinning, okay? Because the reason that I don't believe that is if you think of the amount of force that it takes to stop an arrow that's spinning, I could stop it with 2 fingers. It's not that much energy. So I don't believe that you're getting in meat and tissue and twisting through there. So my point is whatever way that's going to enter, it's going to remain that way, which also the reason I believe that is I've looked at a whole bunch of dead animals where it's aligned. So my point is I mean, with these broadheads that we're using, you could literally, that could be the difference between having a whole blade go an inch. That's probably what, an inch or an inch and a quarter?
Well, that's a 2-inch cutting diameter. Those are.
That's usually across though, right?
Yeah, cross would be.
So a blade that's at least an inch into his lungs or lung and missing.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have that issue with a deer.
No. We're not talking about deer, though. We're talking about turkeys.
Right. I'm providing
and that
context.
I mean, this is what I have a hard time. Once you're shooting a live animal, I don't care what it is, deer, turkey, bear, antelope, whatever, and we owe it to them to try to take the most clean, ethical shot that we can, and kill them as quickly and painlessly as possible. And I've been preaching the shiny spot because I recover my turkeys, but is that truly ethical is the question. And I've started to question it because there's a lot of those that I recover, but I had to kill them. I had to go wring their neck like a chicken.
Well, I'm jellyheading the next couple.
Well,
or shooting them in the neck with my bow. And I'm either going to, and I'm not even using an expandable. I'm going to use a fixed blade. And that way I'm either going to kill the shit out of them
or miss.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the other thing is you go to shooting them just in the head, and pick because there'll be some shots you don't get because they won't stand still, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But we've also seen the headshot lost.
That's why I said a fixed blade.
Yeah, but I don't.
You hit any of them with it in the head with a fixed blade, and I don't think you're going to bounce off their head.
No, I disagree.
I would be willing to find a way to test that we don't have to use a live turkey, but I would bet you money that you shoot like the one that I hit right above the nose with a fixed blade that is going right into his cranium.
I don't know. What about the one that because I shot one in the head at the same place where I lost this turkey.
But you got to think about that blade. If a fixed blade's cut on contact, that's going to be slicing right away, opposed to the heads like that.
I don't know. But I shot a turkey in the head, rolled him over and everything, and he ran off and didn't find him until that evening.
Which you shot him on the top of the head.
Top of the head.
Top of the head with an expandable.
Yes.
That's what I'm saying. Is how when you really try to think about that, how could those blades ever get opened up in time?
I think they open as soon as they hit any tissue.
There's not even enough there on the top of his head like
you
that.
Open like half of it or something.
Right. That's what I'm saying. I think with a fixed blade, no
No,
matter
you should
what,
be shooting him square in the noggin anyways. Just shoot him in the neck.
Right. But I'm saying in case you're high,
yeah,
and you hit him square in the head with a fixed blade, I do not believe that you're going to lose that turkey. I think it's going to go right into his skull.
Well, anyone that's thinking to take someone out and start them turkey hunters, that they got a new hunter and they think that they want to start with turkeys, do not do it. You want to start with something else. Turkeys are one of the most difficult animals to kill with a bow and arrow that there is, period.
They're the toughest animal that we hunt with pound for pound. No doubt.
bar none.
Yep.
Agreed. So don't put your kid out there thinking, oh, we can go hunt turkeys with a bow, which is what I did with you guys. I look back, but fortunately we were pretty lucky, I guess, because we were shooting them in the right spot.
My arrows bounced off of them.
Yeah.
Literally. Well, yeah, that's an interesting story. Anyways.
So what is our final determination here?
I'm happy with, my issue is I had my second archery tag already. Because I had already determined after I killed mine that I was like, let's just end her on a good note. Let's not give it more of a test. Because I love my bow, but turkeys are the only thing that I have harvested with a gun. And so I don't have any issue with it.
Right.
It's like, and I really like my gun. I'm still going to get them close. I like the interacting with them.
Right.
So I was going to just hang it up, and I was like, well, frick, I have another archery tag, so better just finish the year out, basically. And now I'm like, I finished the year out, not in a good way, but I think I'll just stick with my gun unless I start getting super antsy or something. I can't imagine that happening because I'll still bow hunt everything else, but I don't know. I think I'll just feel better.
I'm going to, like I said, fix blade and only neck from here on out. The rest of the year, I'm just using shotgun, just because.
You've hunted one day, and
Yeah.
you're out.
I'm good with it.
Other birds have been hunted now. You've waited entirely too long to go.
Well, we're going to
Try.
Wyoming. I'm going to take a shotgun too.
Yeah.
So
The great thing about shotgun hunting turkeys is it's very similar to bow hunting turkeys. You still got to get them close.
I
mean, not as close.
My
but
goal would be to have one run me over. Yeah, I'll just have them keep coming like when I was 13 or whatever. Instead of shooting them, I'm just going to let them trample me, and then I'll shoot one.
Right.
That'll give me a thrill.
Well, is that it? Is that what we wanted to cover today?
I think so.
Well, I don't know how you can get any more real than that, fellas and gals, guys and gals that are listening. So, what are you doing?
I was just going to remind them,
Oh,
if you're still listening, Joseph Clark, Travis King, and Jim Holloway, you are the turkey plaque winners. Send me at contact@raisedhunting.com. Send me your information as far as your address and everything, and I'll ship that out to you guys. And thank you for sending your photos in.
much appreciated. All right, this is the Raised Hunting Podcast, turning it over to Warren with the wacky fact before we close this out, if he has found one yet. I don't know if he's searching now or if he's just trying to pick out one of the Easton's getting ready by turning on the
You're a
button.
good narrator.
You just got to keep going for a minute.
We had nothing else.
I'm
Well-
not risking my.
Nick,
Percentage here?
Yeah.
Nick had a good one.
Do you want me to give Nick his? Nick didn't turn his in. I'll be nice.
We're not giving credit to Nick.
Okay, well, in 5, 4.
Hey, you know what he searched? You know, I think what he does is he Googles turd, and then go from there. It could be a dinosaur turd, a
I
human
could,
turd.
but that's too easy.
All right.
I heard you were watching my show about. I was trying to find something interesting about Griselda, but
Anyways, Warren has tragically failed to prepare, per usual. And this time he is taking entirely too long. So, without further ado, he'll double you up next year or next week.
We're gonna skip the wacky fact. You can't skip the wacky.
We'll just
fact.
sit in silence.
wow, I got one.
I was gonna say you can't skip it. I mean,
Deduct half of my reasoning already. For my
African
decision.
giant swallowtails, which is a butterfly, have a wingspan of up to 9 inches. It's the most toxic butterfly species. One butterfly is reported to contain toxins strong enough to kill up to 6 average house cats.
Do they like to kill house cats?
I don't know.
That would have given a guaranteed green. Anything else to add with that?
Nope.
what was it? What is it called again? An African.
African giant swallowtail. It's a butterfly.
Can you give me anything on their aggression? Do they kill stuff?
I don't think they're just
I'm trying to help you out here.
flying around, landing on house
You
cats
can't
trying
just
to take
find
them
if
out.
it says like they like to eat rabbits or
I think it's just.
I don't think butterflies have been
I
known
think
to
it's
eat
like-
rabbits.
I've never
How could
known
they
a butterfly
even
to
do
be
that?
known to have toxins either. So
Well, I think
freaking lick one. How
It's
about that?
There's toads that have the same thing. Dog
That's
licks
a
them, kill
totally
them.
different
No,
thing.
it's a mechanism to keep other things from eating it.
Okay, well, you gave us conversation, Warren. So
There's
Joseph,
also there's 5. So scientists apparently don't know why zebras have stripes. There are 5 main hypotheses for why zebras have stripes: to repel insects, to provide camouflage through some optical illusion, to confuse predators, to reduce body temperature, or to help the animals recognize each other.
how long have you not known this? That they don't know if they're black and white or white and black or why they have stripes?
Because I think in much, much larger picture than you. You know what I find amazing? That all of these...
That there's a zebra.
No. That scientists and all these people tell you, they can tell you there's no God, Earth came from this, science came from this, space came from that, but you can't tell me why a zebra's got stripes.
This is an awful reasoning as to why that is not a good fact. That was
you
terrible
kidding me?
defense.
That is great defense. You can't tell me that you know how the galaxy was created, but you can't tell me how that damn horse has stripes.
Yeah, so I'm just gonna put it out there that you are currently arguing them.
No, Neil deGrasse Tyson can suck my ass. He thinks he's a lot smarter than he is.
Who?
Neil deGrasse Tyson.
I don't know who that is.
He thinks he knows literally everything.
Sounds like
And it's-
you. No wonder you
you
hate
should
him.
listen to Joe Rogan. It's extremely annoying. Like, the dude literally believes he knows absolutely everything.
Well,
Under
that
the
one
sun.
has been a thing. They've never figured that. Like that's been.
I
since
want
you're
a new
little
judge.
kid.
You have to get a vote on this because this is bullshit. He's just skewing the numbers.
How am I skewing the numbers?
Because I was getting too good of a rating.
No, that is called.
Yeah.
Everybody knows that nobody knows how zebras are colored
No,
that way.
this is
That's
like-
a common thing.
Did
you
you
wonder
know-
that Nick knew it?
Whatever. Nick's going to act like you knew. Did you know that?
I had an idea. It was like a fingerprint.
They're all
did you
different.
know that they didn't know?
I didn't know that there was 5 hypotheses, but I knew that they
That's
didn't know.
because
Yes.
hypotheses don't mean anything.
'Cause
He
they
knew
don't
that there
know.
was no answer to it.
Yes, I knew. I've heard it described as like a fingerprint. That they're all different. None
I
of
feel
them
like
are the
the
same.
insect one would be really easy to rule out. Because if it repels insects, why wouldn't you wrap something in something that looks like a zebra and see if it works on that too?
That would be the logical thing to do. I don't know, but get over it because that was not a good one. The first one was a good one.
Answer that part then.
What? What do you want me to tell you?
could answer-
I haven't hung around
I could
zebras.
take one of these hypotheses out for the scientists right now.
Go do it then.
I might have to and show them that you guys are thinking too hard.
You need to call them
You're
and be mad
overlooking the
about it.
obvious shit.
You can't be mad at me for them not knowing something. All right.
All right.
He went 1 for 2 on the day.
By a biased judge. This is the cartel. You can't win either way.
I don't like butterflies, nor do I care to hear facts about them, but I gave you a green one on it.
Well, for all of you that always write in and say you like the banter, well, I hope you stay tuned for the whole thing because it got pretty heated here at the end. So this is the Raised Hunting Podcast signing off. Thank you guys for listening, and keep it real and keep sending pictures of you guys' turkeys that you are killing, whether with a bow or with a shotgun.